State of Grace. Let's see. State of Grace. It's a crime movie. It's an Irish gang movie. That's why I really like it. My favorite genre of crime is Irish. And it came out in 1991, around that time. And what the movie is about, it stars Sean Penn. His character, he plays a character named Terry Noonan. And Gary Oldman is another character, is Jackie. And the whole movie is about Sean Penn. He was friends with Gary Oldman back when they were kids, and he leaves the neighborhood. Because Gary Oldman is in the gang, the Irish gang that runs that neighborhood. His older brother, played by Ed Harris, his name's Frankie in the movie. He's the boss. He came up, took over the family and all that. But so Sean Penn was down with them when they were younger, but he left the neighborhood, and they all thought that he went off to a military or something like that. Something, I don't know, but he actually was at the police academy the whole time, and he was getting trained to be an undercover cop to come back in, and that's what he does pretty much. He gets in, he comes back to the neighborhood, reconnects with Gary Oldman's character, and pretty much it's a typical, I'm not going to say it's a typical undercover movie up until a point though. Then I'll explain why it sets it off from any other movie that has an undercover cop as the main character, because we've all seen that, we all know pretty much how that goes out. But let me start. What sets this movie off though for me is Gary Oldman's character and his acting in this movie. His role in that role as Jackie Boy, perfect. Drunken Irishman plays it perfectly. Like, he's the younger brother of the boss, so he's always in the shadow, but he's a loose cannon also at the same time. But I'm not gonna say that his character, his feelings are just so mixed up, but he's got anger and he's got loyalty, and that's all he's got. Either he's angry about something, or he's calm and just trying to get everything cool with everything. Loyalty pretty much comes first though for him. But I guess what the central theme of the movie is, what starts making like the I guess the plot is, there is the Irish gang that they're in is getting muscled in by the Italian mafia. They want to take over their neighborhood and start doing what they do on that spot. And Gary Oldman, was like, nah, hard-head Irishman, typically. No, that's not going to happen. This is our neighborhood. Forget them, His older brother, though, Ed Harris, typical Irishman, also understands where he's coming from, but he also knows that, hey, if we go to war with these guys, they're going to squash us. We're just an Irish gang, even though we're mean and tough. But they're the mob, they're mafia. They'll squash us if they want to. They can send dudes over to our houses while we're sleeping, snuff us out, all that. So he understands that he's got to make a deal with them, and that's what really sets the movie off. Because when Gary Oldman's character realizes that Ed Harris's character is going to comply with them, it just unhinges him. Every time he sees an Italian gangster, he cocks off to him, he mouths off, and what really sets the movie off is a scene where he goes into a bar and just shoots a couple of the capos or whatever off that family, and that pretty much starts it off. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself though. I want to talk about my favorite scene probably in the whole movie. It's the scene where Terry comes back to the neighborhood and he comes and finds Jackie. Jackie's in a bar with his friends. They're drinking. He's telling a story too, and I'm not going to repeat the story because it's kind of racist, but it's funny. But I mean, if you watch it in an Irish gang movie, if you watch any gangster movies, it's stereotypical that white gangs don't like any other gang. Irish, Italian, anything like that. They don't like it. Everyone knows that, colors don't mix when it comes to gangster movies. Not in real life, though. They should. But, so he's telling a story, a racist story, and all his friends are laughing. And Sean Penn comes up and just sits down next to him. Terry, he sits down next to him, and he stares at him. He's like, what's up? And Jackie's like, who's this guy, Doesn't recognize him at all. It's crazy how you can't recognize your best friend after a couple years. Maybe he was too drunk, though. But he ends up recognizing who it is, give him a big hug, all that. And that's my favorite scene, just the dialogue in between them. It's just so, and like you can just tell that the emotion, like they did a good job of portraying two friends that haven't seen each other for a long time. But another thing about that scene though is right after that bar, they go up to the rooftop. They want to shoot guns. They're just going to shoot the shit, but they're actually going to shoot guns. Just past time. So they're shooting guns, and Gary Oldman's like, hey, why don't you go over to the fridge over there? So Sean Penn's character goes over there, and opens up the freezer and sees a human hand is hanging out. He's like, hey, what's that? He's like, Gary Oldman's like, if you got your favorite gun and you don't want to throw it away after you do your job, you just grab a stiff's hand, shoot it with it. Cops will be looking for a dead stiff that's been gone for years. it's just crazy how his character thinks stuff like that. Like this the things like he's got it down, you know. But he's always drunk though. He's sloppy sometimes, and he's a loose cannon. But that's one thing I want to get across though. That's why I like the movie a lot. Is I like watching Gary Oldman and Sean Penn, their characters. Just watching Terry and Jackie go back and forth. It's just great. Like either they're best friends or they're angry at each other. It's always something. But and Sean Penn is in love with Gary Oldman's sister. They start dating again when he moves back to the neighborhood. So it's a little even kind of a love triangle, but it's just a brother looking out for his sister. You know how that goes. So you can also watch that. It's also nice to see that. But as far as him being a protective brother, that comes last though. He's more of an Irishman, a gangster. He's all about the life. But like I said though, the Irish want to muscle in on the territory, and Gary Oldman ends up killing a couple of their capos, which sets it off. The Irish, the leader of the family, the Italian mafia, comes to Ed Harris's character. He comes to Frankie and he's like, "You gotta do something about your brother, you know. You can't have this, and it's bad for business." Frankie knows what he's got to do. He's got to kill his own brother, and that's a turning point for the movie because. Gary Oldman's supposed to go and do like a deal or something at the waterfront, and Sean Penn's going to be watching his back. Ed Harris shows up, doesn't know that Sean Penn is there watching Gary Oldman's back, shows up, and Gary Oldman's like, Frankie, what are you doing here, He thinks he's going to help him out with the deal, watch his back. No, he ends up killing him right there on the spot. Little does Ed Harris know, though, Sean Penn saw the whole thing. And this is where the movie sets itself off from any other undercover cop movie that I've seen. At the funeral, Terry goes to Jackie's funeral, walks up to Frankie, hands him his badge, and says something like "Nothing's off limits now" or something like that. Gives him his cop badge, and that's pretty much it. Like I've never seen a movie where the undercover, like all the undercover cop movies I see, they're undercover all the way through. They're down for the bad guys. They want to take them down all the way through. But in this movie, Sean Penn is like that all the way into the end when it goes over the line, and he realizes that I've been messing up this whole time. I got my friend killed. What am I doing? I got to make things right. To make things right now, it's got to kill Frankie. So, climax in the movie, St. Patrick's Day. That's why I like the movie, because my birthday is the day after, so I can almost put myself in it. But anyways, Squidward just walked in. But at the end of the movie, though, he meets him at a bar. Ed Harris is at a bar with his gangsters, and they're all hanging around, and it's a really good scene. It's like, I'm not going to say it's the first slow motion scene, but it's the first slow motion shootout that I've ever seen in my life. But Sean Penn walks in all gangster in slow motion and just starts shooting all Ed Harris's guys, boom, 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 and they start shooting back and all that, and Sean Penn gets tagged up, boom, 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 and he shoots Ed Harris in the head. And that's why I like the ending, though, is because it's ambiguous. It leaves it open to yourself, because all the gangsters are dead. They're dead. But Sean Penn is also shot up, riddled with bullets. You don't know what's going to happen. The movie just ends. A lot of people don't like that, but I do, because I like to make my own endings up. But that's pretty much the gist of the movie. I recommend watching it, because if you want to see a good performance by Gary Oldman, watch it, because he blows this movie away. And if you don't know who Gary Oldman is, Gordon in the new Batman movies. That's what most people know him as. But I know him as Jackie from State of Grace, which is a great movie, so go watch it.